Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, boys and girls. So we're going to learn about OSPF. Basically, we are going to configure the protocol and do some lab. Let's go ahead and start learning about the task that we have for today. So let me just increase the size of the letter a little bit. You have been tasked with configuring mm, a small company's network using OSPF. Let me just validate the volume. Okay. You have been tasked with configuring a small company's network using OSPF version 2. R2 will be hosting an internet, R1. It will be R1 will be hosting an internet connection simulated by interface loopback 1 and sharing the default route information to R2. After the initial configuration, the organization has asked for the configuration to be optimized to reduce protocol traffic and ensure that R1 remains in control of routing. So this is a pre-configured lab. I'm just going to open the Cisco Packet Tracer lab so we can start working into a solution for this lab. What do we have here? We have a total of two routers, basically two switches, 2960. And what else? Give me just a moment here because it's taking some time to load. One PC, mm, console cable to access the terminal, such as TerraTerm or similar, and Ethernet cable as well in this topology. So let's take a look. Looks like we may have two. And look at that. It is actually blocked. The specific option for logical. So we might have to configure everything from here. So let's work on that. Let's go ahead and go to the first part of the lab. And the first thing we need to do is configure the cables and plug the cables together. So let's start working on that. Okay. So looking at the topology, we have a web server, we have two routers, a laptop, and two switches. First thing we do is connect them together. So let's go ahead and connect the web server to the router. Do you guys see the router? The routers? I don't see. Oh, it is right there. So let's go ahead and work on that right now. First thing we do is move the first router that we have to the rack. So let me move this one, the router 0. I don't see router 1 here. Oh, router 1. Let me move this one, router 1, to the rack. Let's work on that. Router 1 will be going to the rack. Now I need to connect router 1 and the server, but let's just organize this. Then we have switch 1 over here. Then we have the switch 2 over there. And finally, we have router 2. Do you guys see router 2? Let me see. Am I missing something here? Router 2. Where are you, buddy? Give me just some break. Okay, this is router 2. I got it now. Okay, great. Now let's plug everything together. First thing we do, we plug an Ethernet cable from this device. Let me increase the size here to see if I can see better the server because I'm having some problems there. We might have to add, it will go from the specific port to to the router, but I don't know what is going on that I cannot plug it together. I might have to figure that one out. Let me inspect the gear of this device. Okay. Okay, so I have to connect gigabit 000. Do I see it here anywhere? 00, yes. So I select that one, and this one will go to the port for this server. But for some reason it's not popping up. I'm going to pause the recording so I can do some research here. Mm, server. Ah, I need to move it to the right. Let me see. Think that, even that, put that, okay, disable. Oh, okay, so actually the port was fine. We just need to move the server to the table and then plug together the Ethernet cable from gigabit 000 to the Ethernet port in the server, and that's everything. Now, next thing we do, we connect the switch and the router. So gigabit 001 over there. Let me just increase the size a little bit so we can see better. And I have to connect it to the switch gigabit 01. It should be here somewhere. There you go. Next one is the connection that goes from gigabit 02 on this specific switch to gigabit 02 on the other switch. Great. Next one is the connection that goes from gigabit 01 on the second switch, on switch 2, to the gigabit 000 001 on router 2. And finally, we have to move the laptop to the working area. So let me just move the laptop around so I can work alone in this table. And the laptop will be plugged. Actually, let me just do some escape here. The laptop will be from this one to a specific port is gigabit 000 on that device, that router. So let me just add it here and there you go. I think we have pretty much completed all the connections. Now we need to configure an Ethernet cable from the laptop RS connection. Let me go there from this RS232. You saw the port. Let me just do escape for a moment. It is called RS232, something like that. We're going to select this console cable, RS232, yes, and connect it to one of the devices that we need to configure first. Let me just connect it to the router, and if we need to change it to other port, we will do it. So right now, how are we going to configure the router? We go to the laptop, we double click on it, and then first we need to power on the laptop, and then we can start looking into the terminal and okay. So hopefully in the next few minutes, we will be able to access the router information. Now the router might be powered off, so we might have to validate these devices are powered on. So let me just turn on these devices. The switches are probably on, but the routers, we need to validate that. Let me go back to the laptop and take a look at something. We want to know if we can access the router, and it is loading. So you can see the image is just popping up. It's taking a little bit of time. So in the meantime, let's take a look up. Let's write no in this case and then enter. And I will let you know if that is the device that we need to configure. And yes, the router we need to configure for both devices the name. So let's do that. Let's do an enable config T host name R1. Let's go ahead and do a no IP domain lookup here. No IP domain lookup. That will be lookup and enable secret class. What else are we missing? Okay, we have to do this line con 0, then password. Password will be Cisco, and then login. Now, there is an easier way to do all this. We can just go to the end of the lab and copy the running config from this router. So let me see if I can just do it like that. Let me copy the configuration. Let me go to a notepad and let me do that. Remember guys that we have to remove the spaces. So this will eventually work. So let me work on that. It will take a couple of seconds or minutes here, but hopefully it will be easier this way. And then we can go over the things that we have just configured. So give me just a moment. I'm just deleting all those spaces that we don't need. Let me just work on that. We have it almost ready. Yeah, there is a couple of more spaces here. Are we missing something, guys? Boys and girls, are we missing something? We are missing this is, we have to do a, let's just go ahead and copy like this to see if it works. And if we don't encounter any problems or errors, let me just copy this and go to the router one. Let's do an end here. Let me do a config T, and let me paste the whole configuration there. Okay, look at that. Let me see the banner mode to see if we got the banner mode on that one. Let's see. Is it successfully configured there? Let's take a look. Yeah, unauthorized, authorized users only is what it says. So we should be all set. Now let's do a WR to save the configuration. And then let me do something real quick. Let me do a show IP protocols to see if the protocol was successfully configured. And there you are. It is OSPF56, the one we have. We are going to go over this in detail in a moment, but now I want to go ahead and connect to the other router. So I can configure router 2. So let me just move this cable around and let me try to connect to that specific device. We are going to go to router. In this case, it will be router 2. Let's do a no here. Let's do enter and then enable config T. Let's do the exact same process. Let's go to copy the whole configuration of this device. It's a little bit longer than I expected, but it's all right. Let me just copy this. There might be a problem with the line con 0 configuration, but we will fix that in a moment. For now, let's just worry about copying the whole configuration, and we will work on the passwords later on. Let me just go and do that. Let me just paste it here. Let's do a WR. Oh, there is a problem. This is actually the switch. We Let me just do an erase startup config for a moment. Um, delete VLAN that. I want the router configuration. I want the router 2 configuration. That's the one I need to do. So let me work on that real quick. And let me just go ahead and work on that. This one might be a problem because we have different passwords, but we are going to fix that later, so do not worry about it. We have it all handled. Okay, let me just copy the whole configuration here. Oh, remember guys that we need to clear the spaces, so we forgot to do that. Let's go ahead and clear the spaces. And later on, we can work on fixing the password problem with the routers because I didn't count it that we will be having that error problem there. But I will work on that in a moment. Shouldn't be an issue. I'll let you know how to fix it. Okay. Okay, let me just copy this so I can have the whole configuration for whole router 2. So config T here and paste it there. Okay, great. Now let's work on that configuration for router 1, router 2 actually, so we can have the password set up correctly in place. So let me work on that. Yes, starting from here. It is actually the router configuration. Yeah, let's work on it. So we are in router 2. It's pretty much the same. We do a config T. We do enable, secret, and then class. Then we do line con 0, and then password Cisco. Then we do a login and line con 0 is already there. Okay, great. Let me do the next one. Is line BTY. Line BTY 04. Let's do a login, a password. Let's do a password Cisco. And then login. Let's do line BTY. That's it. That's it. Luego, then let's go ahead and do a config T. Service password encryption. And the banner mode is pretty much this one. Let me just add, copy and paste it there. Okay, what else do we have? A copyright config, and that's pretty much everything. Let's do a do in order to save this configuration. Great. Let's do a WR. We're fine. So now let me see if I still have connection to router one. If not, I will have to figure out a way into getting connection to that one because we need to fix the problem with the password. So let me work on it. So let's go. Okay, I still have the connection, so let's take advantage of that so I can configure this correctly. Let's go ahead and do a config T and let's do the same. Enable secrets class, then line con 0, password. We do Cisco here and login. Exit line bty04. Now what else do we have? We have a password of Cisco here, password Cisco, and then we have login, then end, and then we do service password encryption, config T, service password encryption, and we do the banner mode once again. Okay, let's do an end, WR, and we should be all covered. Okay, now let's go with the basic configuration of what we need in the switches or the routers. Let's see, we want to know if this is already in the device. So we just do the following. Show IP interface brief, and you can see the configuration is already there. The IP addresses, the loopback. Is the loopback there? Do you guys see it? Yes, it is. So what about OSPF? Do we have OSPF configuration? Show IP protocols will tell us that we, in fact, has the OSPF. How do we configure OSPF? Well, it's actually quite simple. We go with config T. Let's do a no IP, no OSPF, no IP OSPF first. Let's do no OSPF, OSPF 56. No router. It's actually no router. So I can show you guys do IP protocols. I want to show you guys how to mm, do show protocol. Do show protocols. You see, it is not configured. The OSPF, we don't really see it there. So let's configure it. Is router OSPF1, OSPF 56, and then router ID, router-ID, and this is 1.1.1.1. Then we have the network is 10.53 dot 0.0 0.0.0.255 area 0. This is the first one. That's pretty much all the OSPF configuration. How do you know which IP address to apply? Show IP interface brief. The directly connected network is this one, is the one we are configuring in OSPF. It's pretty much the same process for router 2. So we don't really need to do it. Router 2. The loopback interface. Let's go ahead and configure it one more time just to learn the process correctly. Interface loopback 1, IP, OSPF 56, area 0, and that's it. We're done. If we do the following command, show IP OSPF neighbor, hopefully it will be there. Hopefully. But remember, it will take some time. So maybe we need to validate if the configuration is successfully added um, in the other router, in router in router 2. This one is actually apparently configured in router 2, so maybe we don't need to configure this one in router 1. Only router 2. Let me go ahead and delete it for a moment. Do we need a loopback in routers 1 and 2? Let me see. Let me validate that real quick. Router 1. Let's see if we need a loopback interface here. I don't see, yes, but it is quite different. The loopback interface is another one. So let me validate something. OSPF for the loopback. I don't think we need this one. Let me do that. Config T. Let me do no IP. So this shouldn't be here. Let me just copy and paste it there. Give me just a second, please. Let's copy this one and paste it there. And let's erase it. We don't need that one for now. Let's do a no and let's paste it there. Let me see, what are we missing in the OSPF configuration? Let me just copy and paste this whole configuration again because we might be missing something here. I want to remove the spaces, so let me work on that. Maybe the configuration is more tricky than we expected, so let me just copy and paste it there one more time. And let me do an end WR. And let's see, we are missing something else regarding this OSPF configuration. Okay, this one, we might have to configure this in the gigabit 001. So let's work on that. It is a little bit more tricky, but we will figure it out. Let me just copy and paste it there. Let's do a config T and paste that information there. We are configuring the gigabit 001. The negotiation auto for some reason is not recognizing that command. So let's just do an N and WR for now. Okay, are we missing something here? The loopback should be successfully added. Show IP interface brief. Oh, I think I know what might be happening. We hadn't configured the switches. So maybe the reason because the routers are not communicating correctly, both router 1 and 2, is because we might have to add some configuration in the switches. So let's do that. Let me go ahead and work in the switches. Let me go ahead and work in the switches configuration. Let's start with switch 1. I know this one is class and the other one is Cisco, so I'll even update that one correctly at this time before I mess up per se. Let me just copy the switch 2 configuration. Switch 1, let's start with switch 1 first. Let's go ahead and work on this. So we're going to fix this once and for all, adding just Cisco here, then a Cisco over here, and Cisco over here. And we're going to delete those spaces that we don't really need. Okay, be careful. You don't delete the specific words. Okay, let's just leave it like that. Everything is fine. This one will be class. I think we're pretty much done with these spaces. We don't really need that much configuration. Let me just go ahead and copy this in switch 1. But we have to connect to it. So let me go ahead and connect it. We move this one. This cable, we need to move this cable to the rear. Let me just move it around. And let's see if I can now access the device. Maybe there is something wrong with the router 2 because we were supposed to receive the access and the connectivity between peers, but maybe we missed something there. So we work on that in a moment. This is actually the configuration for switch 1. Are we connecting to switch 1? Let's validate that before we do any changes. Yes, we are. We are connecting to switch 1. So let's go. Let me do a config T. Let me just paste it there. It is like 65%, so we might be missing some important information there. Let me do a WR for now. And let's go ahead and configure switch 2. Let me go ahead and do that. Okay, I just connected to switch 2. I'm just going to do the same. Let me just go ahead and access it one more time via terminal. And let's do an enable config T and let's find the configuration for that switch 2. Let me just do that. Okay, let me just work on it. It might take a moment. I just copy the configuration in a notepad and I do the same editing that I did before. So remember, just remove the space carefully. And we need to do something else. Do you guys remember what is it? Change this to Cisco. We will go step by step later on, but we want to improve the time and improve all the information real quick. So I'm just going to do this for now and then go a little bit slower. Let me just copy and paste it there. And let's go to switch 2 so I can just paste the configuration. Let's do a WR and let me go ahead and return to, in this case, to router 2 to see if maybe it is even 76%. Are we able to look at the results? Are we missing something? Okay, interesting. Okay, we're missing some important stuff here. So we can start working on the first thing is actually the default gateway of the laptop. We need to configure that. So let me go ahead and look for the laptop default gateway. Okay, let's see if we can update that. It's not even configured. 192 and 168.1.10 slash 24, 192 and 168.1.1. Let's see if this improved the node. Okay, we got an 80. Great. Now let's return to the result and see what else are we missing here. Okay, the port. Apparently the port in router 1, there is some port information missing and incorrect information. So we need to work on router. Let me see if it is, yeah, we need to work on router 1. There is some information incorrectly configured in the port. So we need to fix that right now. Let's go ahead and connect to router 1 so we can do the changes there. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, first thing we do, we close this one for now. And we're going to connect to router 1. Let me go to the rear. Let me move this to this router. Okay, and now let's access the PC. Let's go to terminal. And let's start working on the configuration that we're missing on router 1. Okay, so apparently we are not configuring, there's some configuration that is not correct on router 1. So let's go over the step-by-step configuration and let's see if we are missing something. Let me add this configuration to router 1 just to cover my back. Let's clear some information that is not required for now. I'm just going to configure most of it once again. So maybe there was some spaces or something that we didn't add before. So I want to configure this time correctly. Okay, I just configured this information. Let's see if the score increased to 81. Okay, that's not much, but it's a little bit of satisfaction that is improving. What else are we missing? Let me see if we are missing more. Let me return to the results. Okay. Okay, the IP address, the port, and the submask apparently is not correctly configured for gigabit 000. So let's go to that gigabit 000 and validate that information. Okay, so let me go ahead and do it. Apparently, we don't have the correct IP address for that one, apparently. That's strange because it looks like that is the right one on router one. Mm, that is just strange, totally strange. Let's do WR to IP interface brief. Mm, it looks like we have the right one for that IP, but I don't know. It's pretty much strange that apparently maybe there is some calculation that we are missing that we need to configure for that device. So let me go ahead and see if maybe they changed the IP address. Let's see. What did they do? Mm, this is strange. Let me see something. Let's do a show IP OSPF neighbor. I don't see the neighbor configured successfully. This is weird. Mm, okay, apparently we need to fix the priority here. So let me see if that will help us somehow. Also, we need to fix the interval 30. So let's work on that. Okay, let's see if there's an improvement. It's just the same. So strange. Okay, let's configure this IP route. Let's just config T and paste it there. Are we missing something here? Okay, we're getting an error for the loopback. Okay, there is a misspelling error there that we need to fix. Okay, let's do a router OSPF56 here. As let's do the default information originate. Okay, this is actually in router 2, so we don't have to worry about that for now. Apparently, we have configured everything here correctly. Let's do WR show IP OSPF interface gigabit 001. Yes, apparently we have the information correctly configured there. Hmm. Not sure why we keep getting the error message since we apparently configure everything fine, but let's compare the configuration that we currently have to the one they're displaying here. Looks like the same for me. Okay, we have the loopback 000 doesn't have an IP address, so it shouldn't be there. Everything here looks fine. 56, auto reference 1000, originate. Yeah, I'm seeing pretty much. Okay, there is something that I'm missing here. There is some information that I'm missing here, so let me see if I can just copy this and configure it just in case. Config T, let me just paste it there. Maybe it's not accepted. Let me just copy one command at a time. Let's do that. No, it's not accepting those specific commands for some reason. Maybe within packet tracer, it just doesn't support those commands. Let's go ahead and access router 2 to see the configuration that we have. We're still stuck at 81. Let me see if I can move to router 2 for a moment. Okay. Let's see. Let's see to see and validate if we are missing important information there in router 2. What are we missing there? Let's validate that in a moment. Okay, let's go ahead and validate something in the results section. We're pretty much getting all greens. Still, this one says that it doesn't have an IP address or physical port or a subnet mask, but they didn't specify in router 1. So strange. With that interval apparently is incorrect in router 1 as well. But I don't remember they specify at that interval. 00, that interval here, the status is not either. Says okay, so there is something in switch 1, the service password encryption is not there, so let's correct that one. Let's correct that one for now. Let's go ahead and go to switch 1 so we can fix that one first. Switch 1. Okay, and let's fix it. Let's go ahead and fix it. The only thing that we're missing there is the password encryption. So let me work on that. Okay, and we go here. I'm going to pause the recording later so I can work on figuring out what is wrong with this one. Service password encryption and WR. Let me pause the recording to investigate. Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Where's the event? What the- Oh. Mhm. Okay, look back. Okay, so the first thing I did, I erased the loopback because it didn't have the correct IP address, and I add the correct IP address to gigabit 000. So I got to an 85%, and that was pretty much. Let me do an end and a WR so I can save the configuration. Let me just pause the recording again so I can continue troubleshooting and this one out. But in the meantime, please continue doing these updates and I'll let you know what else I fixed so we get to 100%. Oh, the jet interval on gigabit 001. Let's do that one. Let's see what that interval went in there. 0, 0. Nice. 50. Oh, 6. Okay, next thing, I access the gigabit 001 and I configure IP OSPF that interval to 120 seconds. It is right here in the instructions. So that's the last thing I did. I just going to save the configuration. We got to an 87%. Now let's check in the results and see we are almost done. Router 1 is successfully completed. Now we need to work on those changes in router 2, the same changes. Configure the correct IP address for gigabit 000, that interval, enable the port. That's pretty much. And we will leave the server for the last portion of this section. So let's go ahead and work on router 2. Let me go ahead and connect to router 2 so I can take care of that. Okay, let's go to the device so we can configure it. Let's go, let's go. Okay, so let's do it. Let's validate this. Config T. I don't think we need a loopback. Interface loopback 1. No IP hat. We don't need it for now. We just need to configure interface gigabit 000, one IP hat, and then 190, 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty much. That's everything we do. Enter. We go to 89%. Let's do another shoot. We go to 90%. Great. What else are we missing? Let's take a look at the results. We got router 1. We got almost perfect everything with router 2. Oh, the service password encryption is missing on the switch and the interval. So let's work on that. Let's do interface gigabit 001. Do you guys remember what was for the that interval? IP OSPF, that interval 120. And there you go. What else do we do? We have to do a shoot here for the port. Let's do an end and WR. And let's close and open it just to validate we got everything. We got 92%. Great. We are getting to the end of this lab. Service password encryption is what we're missing in switch 2. So let's work on that. Let's go to switch 2 and fix the problem. Let me just go there to the rear. Everything that we have been doing so far is a learning experience. So you guys saw maybe we didn't configure something correctly. We fix it later. It's just part of the learning experience. Okay, let's do terminal access to that switch and let's do the following. After adding the Cisco password, and class. Let's do a config T and service password encryption, and then N and WR. We go to 94%. Now we are only missing these server IP addresses. So let's go ahead and validate this. We need to power on the device and we need to configure it. So let me go ahead and look for the information for this server. Okay, we have to do the 172 dot 16.1.10. This mask, we do a 255. That's 0. 172.16.1.1 probably is the default gateway for this one. Yeah, let's validate that. Now let's see the results because we are almost done, but maybe there is a small error or a small step. The physical location is incorrect for the physical for the web server. So we might have to check to see if we need to add it to the rack. Let me just validate that. Let's go ahead and go to the instructions. Where do we need to place this body? Hmm. Maybe we need to add it to the rack. Let's see. Where is the server going? The server. Let's go to the instructions for a moment so we can remember. Okay, connect it. It doesn't really say here where does the server goes. Let me see if the instructions here. Let's go to the beginning. The scenario is there. Okay, we need the router, the switches, and the other devices in the rack. Drag the web server to the rack. Okay, so that's what we're missing. We need to drag this body to the rack. Drag it. Let's drag it. Let's just select it, click on it, and drag it to the rack. And we got it 100%. Okay, amazing job. I want to thank you guys for being the time for completing this lab, taking the time. I know it can be overwhelming, it can be exhausting, but remember, practice makes perfect. So until next time, it's been a pleasure. My name is Cesar Morera. Boys and girls, take care. I will see you around, and I'll see you at the top of success. Take care, guys, boys and girls. Goodbye. I forgot something important, boys and girls, and it's very, very essential. So let me just share the screen with you guys, and this is an additional to the previous video. The show IPOSPF neighbor command to validate that the neighbors were successfully configured after we got 100% in the lab. I already ran that for router 1 and for router 2. So this is only for router 2, but let me just do the same for router 1. Let's go ahead and connect from the console cable to router 1 so I can show you guys, boys and girls. So we go to the terminal and we do the same. We do show IP protocols, for example, and look at that. We have the OSPF configuration. We do show IP OSPF neighbor, and you can see the neighbor. Same thing applies for router 2. If we do the same, if we just return, we connect the console cable and we go to the terminal again. Let's do the same. Let's do show IP protocols, and you can see all the IP addresses that are configured with OSPF. The specific number for OSPF is 56 in this example, and the other command was show IP OSPF neighbors. And that's what I wanted to show you, but I totally forgot at that time. So what I will do is I'm just going to plug the videos together in a single video and hopefully we should be all right.